Men don't know how to communicate. Yeah, we do. We just don't communicate the way you like to communicate. That's what the issue is. Say that. That's really what you mean. You communicate verbally. Newsflash, there's verbal communication and then there's non-verbal communication. Did you know both are forms of communication? That's like someone only speaking French and another person speaks Italian. Then a French person turns around and tells the Italian person that they're not speaking just because they're not speaking French. You don't have the monopoly on what communication is. Men and women tend to communicate differently. When people say men don't know how to communicate, that's cap. We just don't communicate the way women communicate. How about you learn how the man them communicate so you can understand what the man them are saying? But turning around and saying men don't know how to communicate, that's the lack of accountability, because that's offsetting your misunderstanding the lack of ability to understand what that person's saying and just saying, oh, they don't know how to communicate. They are communicating, but you're just not reading the communication. It's not entering in your system to understand the communication. So, but when people say men don't know how to communicate, men don't know how to communicate, that's the biggest cap I've ever heard, because non-verbal communication is a form of communication. Not wanting to speak to somebody is communicating to them that you don't want to speak to them. Or maybe you're stressed out. Understand certain signals that are synonymous with situations or feelings that man them go through, innit? And then you wouldn't turn around and say, man them don't know how to communicate. Man them don't know how to communicate. Men do know how to communicate. We just communicate differently. You don't have the monopoly on what communication is. So how about you learn how to understand how men communicate? But I'll be honest with you, the reason why most women don't understand how men communicate is because they've never had to, bro. When you are the pursuit, you don't have to understand your pursuer. You just have to understand yourself to know whether this is what I like or not. But when you are the pursuer, you have to understand your pursuit. And we've been doing this from knee high, because we are the ones that have to chase the women in order to catch them. So the reason why we understand women is because you have to understand what it is you're trying to catch. So if you realize as a kid you were doing this, the little boy takes the sunflower out of the grass and hands it over to the little girl. He understands that this is the shit that female like. Growing up, you can extrapolate these examples throughout your adolescence and your manhood. So you've always had to understand women because you've been trying to get the woman. Women aren't typically chasing men, so you don't really have to understand men because you're not trying to catch men. You have to understand the things you're trying to catch. You don't have to necessarily understand the thing that's trying to catch you. That's where a lot of women go wrong when it comes to understanding men. The brother knows how to communicate. You just don't know how to understand what he's communicating. But obviously, the lack of accountability will make you offset the responsibility and say, he just don't know how to communicate. We don't communicate based off of verbals. We don't want to talk. Stop trying to make us operate outside of our nature. We communicate based off of actions, because anything a man does isn't about this, is off of his actions. Every single thing that makes a man he is today and that puts him in that high echelon, upper echelon, is down to his actions, not down to his words. He's not a waffler. Women like hearing the verbals. That's why women fall in love with what they hear. That's why men tell lies, because women fall in love with what they hear. And men fall in love with what they see. That's why women wear makeup, because men fall in love with what they see. Oh, I'm cooking. But let's leave that one alone, because maybe another day I'll go into more detail for that thing there. But